Good morning, afternoon, or good evening, everyone. I'm a baddie, and I'm going to safely assume that you are too. Welcome to this video. As you know, I recently discovered Reddit. I mainly look at practical subreddits like interior design, cottagecore, following different discussion groups, and obviously, am I the asshole? Am I overreacting? Etc. Today we're going to discuss paranormal encounters. This post was on the Paranormal Encounters subreddit, posted by Party18712. Have you ever seen something creepy you didn't share because you felt nobody would believe you? As a kid, friends and I would go into, our town graveyard because it was creepy, of course. It was something to do. We'd ride our bikes around town, do things like that. My town was also the first settlement of a group of certain immigrants to the state. So there are a lot of very, very old gravestones there. It was really, really kind of fun to see and look around at the old pieces of history there. There's also original houses in the oldest parts of the town, so it was really fun to do things like that as a kid. It was kind of like the come home before the streetlights turn on time. Super small town, pretty safe. But yeah, anyways, I've always wanted supernatural things to happen to me, but sadly, I have not experienced anything yet. There was something I thought that was paranormal, but it turned out to be sleep paralysis. so nothing here yet, but I'm not saying I don't believe in paranormal things, but I just have yet to experience anything. So I've kind of looked into reading about what other people have experienced. Anyways, this person says, when I first started my law enforcement career, I was placed on evening shift as part of our responsibility was to lock the gates of our city cemetery. This cemetery is one of the oldest in the area and has a notoriously eerie reputation, sitting in a less than nice part of town. One night, I approached the first of the 3 large gates. I always made it a point to turn on my alley light and scan the area with my spotlight to ensure it was empty before getting out. After a quick check revealed nothing, I stepped out to lock the gate. As I was fumbling with the lock, trying to remember the code, I looked up and froze. About 50 feet away, partially leaning against a tombstone, stood a woman with a blank expression. Her clothing looked outdated, and she didn't seem to be of solid form. I called out to her, but she didn't move. After struggling to remove the chain and push the gate open, she had vanished. I immediately called a close friend from another district to come check the area, but there was no sign of her. I downplayed what I saw, not wanting to scare him or would sound ridiculous, but years later, I brought it up again and discovered I wasn't the only officer who encountered her. This inspired me to start a YouTube channel called Policing the Shadows, go check them out, where I share paranormal encounters from first responders and investigate these haunted locations. It's encouraging to see more officers feeling comfortable sharing their extraordinary experiences. Now, I'd love to hear your stories. Excuse me. What creepy encounters have you faced that made you hesitate to speak up because you felt no one would believe you? All right, so first thing posted was by Unlikely Handle, sorry. My dad and I would snare rabbits and trap beavers, mink, etc. in our NWO reservation. We're Ojibwe. One day, when we were checking snares and traps and hauling the day's catch back into the truck, it went insanely quiet. No noise from the wind, the crunch of snow, birds stopped chirping, the whole shebang. We both immediately turned and saw an unfamiliar tree along the trap line. We've done this for over 12 years at this point and knew the trail well. My entire mouth went dry and my legs told me to run even before my mind registered anything. My dad was also running and we maybe made it 40 meters from where we were and turned around to look again to see the strange tree, dead center of our well-traveled trap trail. We kept running another 60 meters or so. I swear only when we entered the truck I could hear noises again. We looked out the window to see the tree, still dead center of our trap trail, but now only about 12 to 15 meters away from the truck. We floored it out of there. Oh my gosh. Skywatcher1234 says, yikes, what would you explain that to be? OP responds, no idea. We have many legends and tales of the history of the land, some places you need to offer raw or real tobacco leaves, one of our sacred medicines of the land, to even enter or step foot in those areas. But our trap line has no lore. But this was the most strange and malevolent thing me and my dad ever experienced. The tree was not chasing or running after us, but it was there. My dad and I spoke about it later and felt was like it just needed to know it was there. In the moment, proximity existed. We do not know how to explain it. And then he goes on, it was a birch bark tree. We used the shavings as fire starter for our fires because our trap trail is frequently used. We do not take from the nearby trees. However, this quote-unquote tree was completely untouched with no shavings taken. Wow. Oh, sorry. It will move me here. Okay, so I just had to include this story because, my goodness, you know, when you know an area really, really well, you know what's supposed to be there, what's not supposed to be there. And it's a tree, right? It's seemingly innocuous. It's just a part of the landscape, right? But if it's never been there before, what is it? And why is it getting closer to you? So here were some thoughts. Beginning well says, sounds like the rabbits, minks, and beavers decided they had enough of y'all trapping their family members and told the trees. OP says, yeah, well, when you live remotely and live off the land, you kind of need to catch your own food, clothes, lining, blankets. So I was thinking originally when he was talking about trapping, I am a super huge animal lover. And I, abhor the fur trade, which the settlers began to do when they came over here to North America, just wiping out millions and millions of the native animals that were here. But OP is native and does live on a reservation, and they generally treat nature, all of the animals, with respect, and they do uphold a lot of their arts and traditions regarding food, using every part of the animal, blankets to stay warm, things to sell, etc. So I was like, all right, that's fine. That's you guys do you. It's okay. I'm not mad about it anymore. But yeah, I mean, maybe it could have been a spirit of the forest. Who knows? Honeybee Linus says, was it day or nighttime? OP says, daytime around 2 p.m. on a weekend, January or February. Also, I think this is probably Canada, based on a certain spelling I saw earlier. All right, another story. The next one we have is by Juber81. I was walking my dog in the local country park once. Part of the footpath takes you between two steep embankments, which are maybe 200 yards long before it opens up at either end. My dog was off the lead ahead of me when she stopped and turned to face me to see if she should wait for me to catch up. She was a good dog, very obedient, and didn't stray far. Oh, also, sorry, in the previous story, he used meters, which is also why I assumed they're in Canada. Sorry, continuing on. Suddenly something behind me caught her attention and bolted towards me and past me. She was a Jack Russell and could run like the wind. By the time I'd turned around to see what was going on, I saw a huge black mass. To me, it looked like the back of a large black bear on two legs, running away and down the stairs at the far end and out of view. It must have been about 12 feet tall. My dog was chasing it and also disappeared out of view. I sprinted to the end of the path and down the stairs shouting for my dog and found her sniffing and growling under a bush that was way too small for anything to hide in, and there was no sign of the big black thing anywhere. To this day, I have absolutely no idea what it was, but I know I didn't imagine it because my dog went after it. If only she could speak. I should also add that I live in the UK. We don't have wild bears anywhere. The nature park used to be a local reservoir and is surrounded by housing estates on all sides. Well, I have no idea what that could have been. Personally, if you guys have a guess, let me know. Low Mud says, was driving home late at night, no other cars on the road, and there was a literal commercial airplane frozen in the air. This was near the approach path for a major airport, so from a distance, I just assumed it was a plane landing. As I got closer, I noticed it was way too low. It was parallel to the road, maybe 100 feet above the water. I slowed down as I passed because I could not believe it. I still to this day would have convinced myself it was some sort of illusion if I hadn't seen two police cars fly by me and pull over near the spot. This is not a road you can easily pull over on. Maybe my mind played something wild on me that night, but my God, was I totally sober. And here's this massive plane with all its lights on, just frozen in time, right next to me. Never told anyone, because who would believe that? So I remember a little bit ago, there were a lot of viral videos going around, posting planes that were seemingly frozen, but usually they were just either edited videos or the parallax effect, which is what Fashion Moon says, which is basically just, I think, perspective. It makes it seem like something's frozen in midair, but it's just because, I don't know, you're at a certain angle and you're on the ground that you can't tell for a little bit. But I don't know, I think other people really believe in it and say it's a glitch in the Matrix or things like that. Next story from Fuzz Team 7. My dad was in a nursing home due to dementia and he hated being there, but it was in 2020 and no home health care was to be found. Oh, that's so sad. I was staying at his house so I could take care of his affairs and visit him at the home. I was coming back from a walk with my dog at night and saw a dark gray figure cross in front of the windows. It moved exactly like my dad. The house was locked up. When I checked it, there was nobody there. After he died, I was poked in the side, the covers flapped while I was trying to sleep, and I constantly felt watched. Poking me was always his brand of humor. I had several strange events happen prior to this, so it was more annoying than anything else. My first encounter was when I was in my 20s. I'm 60 now, and have learned to live with the strange and unusual. Oh, that's super sweet, actually. That's more sweet than creepy, I think. Yeah, I feel like if anything, it was probably the memory of his dad and like the energy in his home and everything like that. So I thought it was kind of sweet. Okay, this is a long one. Visual Bluebird says, gosh, okay, here goes. This happened around 15 years ago. My former partner was what I'd like to call a curious skeptic and was interested in stories of hauntings, etc. I used to wind him up about it, suggesting anything remotely strange was ghosts. We were going for a weekend away, and I decided to book one of the nights in a haunted inn as a surprise for him. Bearing in mind I was a full skeptic, so I assumed it was a marketing ploy and thought I would have fun scaring him overnight. I booked the haunted room where lots of experiences had been reported. The inn is 3/4 of the way up a steep mountain pass in the Lake District, Cumbria, UK, and dates from at least 1496. Wow, so it's old. The location and age of the building alone are what I'd call suggestive without hearing rumors, and I put the reports of hauntings down to that, plus the fact that the wind howls up the pass in all seasons. It's called the Kirkstone Pass Inn if anyone wants to check it out. It's some kind of Airbnb carbuncle now, but 15 years ago, it was a beautiful historic building with original flagstone floors, wonky ceilings with beams, and was so cozy and lovely. I had a bar where we checked in. My partner asked about the hauntings, and the barmaid sort of shrugged it off. I thought she would lean in the hushed tones. We would get some kind of sell-all on the ghosts, but no. Partner was a bit crestfallen, but we dumped our stuff off in the room and came back down to the lovely old bar for drinks and dinner. When we retired upstairs later, we saw there was a specifically made DVD by the TV about the hauntings. My partner said he didn't want to watch it at night, for which I mocked him, and after we decided to watch it the next morning before we checked out. The room was nice. I remember it had 2 windows, but they were so low as to be almost at floor level due to the way the rooms had been constructed. You knew you were in a very old building. There was a little ensuite shower room tacked on near the door to the hallway. The room was the last one on the left, round a dog leg in the hall. Not sure what that is. There were only 4 or 5 bedrooms, I think. Now, I will say that the hall felt spooky, dark and narrow and poorly lit, but again, this was all just suggestive to mind. So we ignored the DVD and did our ablutions. Ablutions. I think that's just like your toiletries and everything. Watched some TV in bed and went to sleep, probably around 11:30. Splitting this comment as it's already longer than I thought. I just added that in there. Okay. The bed was comfy and the room was warm. We had no issues getting to sleep, no weird feelings, creepy sounds, or anything. I remember waking up with a huge jolt from the sound of something smashing in the wee bathroom. It was a sudden and unpleasant wake up, but I assumed someone had dropped something in the bar downstairs and said so to my partner, until he checked the time and said the bar was closed hours earlier as it was almost 3 a.m. He was visibly shaken and said he was sure it was something in our bathroom that had broken, so I put the bedside light on and got up to check. He followed me, creeping like Shaggy from Scooby-Doo, and I remember finding it hilarious. Bathroom door was slightly ajar, and at first I couldn't see anything amiss. I was saying, nothing here, all fine, but I have to admit I felt a strange pressure in my chest and a sense of unease. But I have asthma anyway and had gotten up so quickly I didn't pay too much mind, to be honest. My partner was pale and just pointed at the sink where I saw one of the water glasses smashed to bits. Holy shit, my dog just came in and scared the shit out of me. Okay. My partner was pale, and I pointed to the sink where I saw one of the water glass smashed to bits. Not impossible, says I. Glasses on wet surfaces can sort of aquaplane and slide along, you know. The problem with that explanation was that the two water glasses were on a shelf on a different wall, 4 feet away from the sink. They were also sitting on the shelf on those wee paper doily things, so wet surface slide was impossible. The glass was pretty much in smithereens, so I knew it hadn't just fallen a few inches. I realized all this, but my partner was visibly genuinely afraid, so I tried to explain it away. I left all the broken glass in the sink and we went back to bed. I closed the bathroom door fully this time. He insisted on leaving the bathroom light on too and clung on to me like a limpet. I'm not sure what a limpet is. Until we finally fell asleep again, probably around 5 a.m. In the morning, I woke first and noted that the bathroom door was open again, but I kept quiet about that. My partner was very quiet and still uncomfortable in the room. I collected all the glass and wrapped it in a towel, and we took it down to the bar when we went for breakfast. I gave it to the barmaid and started to apologize, saying the glass was smashed but we didn't break it. She interrupted me, saying she had heard the smashing and knew we had been asleep. Turns out she lived on site in the room across the hall from ours. Her husband just nodded along and said, "It happens regular in there. Glasses smash and people's toiletry things and makeup and whatnot thrown about. Last time was about 2 weeks ago. We heard the smash and I says to her, 'There it goes again, haha.' My partner was aghast and I asked why they hadn't told us when we checked in. Lady shrugged and said, 'Some people have things happen, some people don't. But the ones who want it don't get it, and then they're disappointed. And those who don't want it do get it. So oftentimes everyone is unhappy.' And they just laughed. My partner's face was a picture. I mean, they stayed in a haunted place, a haunted hotel for a reason, right? The man said we should watch the DVD before we left, so we had a superb breakfast and went up to watch it before we checked out. So the DVD had the usual spooky photo of building, and the blurb on the back was exactly the kind of woo-woo schlock I had expected. The film was the same, low budget and cheaply made with eerie music and stories. Several unfortunate deaths associated with the inn and the pass itself. Oh, and the pass itself in the 1400s. People used to die of exposure when trying to traverse it, and so on. A few stories of specific apparitions supposedly seen who were thought to be this person or that person, etc. But the second half of the maybe 30-minute film was just about the specific room we were in. According to many reports, a black mass had been seen coming through the wall in the corner where the bathroom now is. People had reported a bad feeling, and some had even slept in their cars after seeing this mass or left immediately. Now, we didn't see this mass, of course, but it's certainly odd that the bathroom was the place where all the issues seemed to be. It showed photos guests had taken of their stuff tipped out of bags onto the bathroom floor, and 2 photos of smashed glasses in the bathroom. I can't deny that our glass had to be actually lifted from the shelf and moved several feet to end up in the sink. I have no rational explanation for how. The fact it was reported to have happened many times is also a little too coincidental. I agree. So that was our bizarre night at the Kirkstone Pass Inn. I'd still go back because the experience made me a curious skeptic instead of a hardline non-believer. The place is now under new ownership. I think the bar is closed to the public, and the internal space has probably been totally changed, so I'm not sure the haunted room even exists anymore, but I do sometimes think about the old place and wonder if stuff still goes on there. Interesting, very interesting. I do think it's more than a coincidence when multiple people have the same experience. What do you guys think? All right, next one. Sorry, let me get a sip here. Cypher Demon Lord. Here's mine. This happened a long time ago, about 25 years ago, back when I was in high school. We had just moved into a new house. There were boxes everywhere and a ton of furniture scattered all over the place. By midnight, we had managed to set up my parents' bedroom, the kitchen, most of the guest hall, and the dining room. My parents were exhausted, went straight to sleep. I went to my room and realized it was in no condition for sitting, let alone sleeping. I cleared a small space by closing the door, moving a few boxes, and placing a mattress on top of them. Before I could lie down, I heard a cat meowing. I turned around and saw a black cat calmly sitting in the middle of the room under the moonlight, meowing repeatedly. I walked towards it. The cat stayed still for a few seconds, then slowly walked into the shadows. I turned on the light and it was gone. I searched everywhere, but there was no sign of it. The windows were locked. While searching for the cat, I made an even bigger mess. It had no energy left to clean. So I dragged my mattress out into the hallway, turned off the lights, and lay down, desperate for sleep. A moment later, I heard footsteps behind me. I assumed it was my parents waking up from the noise I had caused earlier. The lights were off, and I didn't want them tripping over me, so I quickly sat up to warn them. The second I turned toward the sound, something jumped on me. I felt like a small girl, or maybe a small adult female with long hair but with leathery hard skin. She climbed on top of me, pressing her knees into my torso with all her strength. I instinctively grabbed her by the neck, but the neck felt like I was choking a polished stone column, solid and unnaturally hard. Her weight was terrifying. She felt heavy like stone. I could barely move. The worst part was her limbs. It felt like she had no fingers, as if her hands ended at the wrists and she was trying to push my arms away with blunt stumps. At that moment, fear didn't even register. I was furious, assuming it was an intruder. As I struggled with it, I stared at its face, but I couldn't make out any features. It was entirely pitch black. We fought for around 20 seconds before I finally managed to throw it off me, sending it crashing into a small table. I scrambled to the light switch, turned it on, and she was gone. The table was overturned from the impact. My parents ran out to see what happened. We even called the neighbors and searched the house and the yard for half an hour. Nothing. We eventually called the police and filed a report, but that was the end of it. Nothing strange happened again for years, until much later, about 10 years later, when I was studying abroad for graduate school. At the time, I was living with an undergraduate roommate. He was a funny guy, kind and always in good spirits. One night, however, his scream jolted me awake. He was sprinting toward the kitchen, and I instinctively jumped up and ran after him. His face was priceless. Honestly, I wish I had recorded it. When I asked what the hell happened, he told me that when he laid down on his bed, he saw a little girl sitting on my back while I was sleeping. And when the girl realized he could see her, she leapt towards his bed in a long frog-like jump. That's when he screamed and ran. I never told him of my experience before. What? I would have definitely told him. Fast forward to now, it's been about a week that my wife has started saying she sometimes sees a woman-shaped shadow standing in the corner of the room after midnight. It's happened twice so far, and now she asks me to walk with her if she needs to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. Aside from that, the only other strange thing is that the shower curtain moved 3 separate times when I was sitting on the toilet watching it. We currently live in a large apartment complex on the 10th floor. The building is only 4 years old, and we're living on the complete opposite side of the world from where my original experience happened. I don't know how these things are related, but it scared the hell out of me now that people around me could see it and I couldn't. Wow. Wow. That's terrifying. She followed him. Wow. I don't know why. I wonder who she was. Was she a lost spirit? Did she die in that house? Was she something else entirely? Oh my goodness. It's kind of terrifying, honestly. And it's interacting with people around him. So, have you all experienced anything paranormal? Do you guys have any paranormal or spooky stories as well? Please share them if you want to, of course, but I'm so curious, so please put them in the comments if you like. And also, if you like what I'm starting here, please like this video, subscribe to the channel so you can see videos that I post, etc. I want to share other spooky stories and things like that as well if you like that. Stay tuned. Anyways, it was so nice to meet you. Bye bye baddies. See you in the next one.